We are again, folks. This is Brother Peter with Tidbits from the Word. I'm doing a new series right now. It would do you well if you're very interested in learning about in the New Testament about Jesus when he came about in the New Testament. You'll need a pad and a pen, or a pad and a piece of paper and a pencil. I use pencils because I make a lot of mistakes and I like erasing and redoing it. But I'm going to be using some paperwork that I just used in a seminary that I went to. And the seminary used a book called Whitman's Guide to the Bible. I would recommend anybody, whoever you are watching this, that you get Whitman's Guide to the Bible and study it for yourself. Do your own theological study at home. I'm probably studying more right now than I ever studied when I was in school. I've been a whole day today just digging out, studying, digging out, studying, digging out, studying, enjoying myself. Got to a place where I had to actually stop and take a nap. Now, these segments are going to be relatively short. I'm going to try to keep them around a 10-minute forum each one, and you'll be able to watch one and then two and then three and then four, and you can keep up with it that way. Now this segment will be segment 1 or segment A, whichever you prefer to use. Jesus, his birth was recorded in Luke 2 and verse 17. Now all you do is write down Luke 2 verse 17. And then the adoration by the shepherds when they came, the shepherds came, you remember, when he was born in a manger, the shepherds came. That's Luke 2, 8 through 20. And then if you got a pen now or a pencil, pen these down, either that or go back and review this. It will always be on here. You'll always be able to do that. So we saw the dedication in Jerusalem, Luke 2, 21 through 36. And then we saw he was worshipped by wise men. Can you imagine if you took some astronomical thing happened today that a bunch of wise men would come to see? No, God had these wise men come to see Jesus. Matthew 2, 1 through 12. Now, if you remember about this, they brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. What was Jesus going to do when he had to take his flight into Egypt? Listen to this. Matthew 2, 13 through 23. Joseph had to pack up his mule, pack up his wife, and pack up his baby, Jesus, and put him in a papoose of some type and head for Egypt because the king of that day was trying to kill all of the boy babies. So, his temptation is in Matthew 4, 1 through 11. Now, you say you went from his baby to his temptation. That's what he was born for. He was born to show that he was able to stand the temptation of the devil and not sin. See, Jesus was a sinless person, a sinless human being. And we'll talk about that throughout this study. And then he had the first temple cleansing. He's got a little age on him now. John 2 and 13 through 25. And we had the introduction of John the Baptist, the 9th one was, and that was the 10th I just did. The 9th one was John the Baptist being introduced in John 1 and 29. We're going to skip over 10 now, go to 11. The conversion of Nicodemus, John 3, 1 through 21. Nicodemus asked a question that's been asked by every single human being that is saved today. What must I do to be saved? And I lived 30 years without asking that question. And I said, God, at 30 years old, forgive me, I'm a sinner. Come in my heart and save my soul. He did it 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been saved ever since. The 12th thing is the choice of the 12, Matthew 10, 1 through 4, where he chooses his 12 disciples. And then we go on to the imprisonment and the exaltation of John. Now, Matthew 14, 1 through 12, John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus Christ. He came in the New Testament in the likeness of Elijah in the Old Testament, but in the spirit of Elijah, one heralding out the fact that this Jesus was coming on the earth, and he was the one to be worshipped, not John. And then we see in Peter's great confession in Matthew 16, 13 through 20, where Peter finally, after going through a lot of rigmarole, confessed. Now, and the 15th thing is the transfiguration. That was in Matthew 17, 1 through 13, where one of the times Jesus transfigured into heaven and came back. And the 16th thing is his triumphal entry into the city. You remember they put the leaves down and the sheaves down, and they cut the branches, and they laid their clothes down even for the donkey to walk on, and he came his triumphal entry into the city. And then he wept over Jerusalem. Matthew 23, 37 through 39, Luke 19 and 41 said Jesus wept. He wept over the city. And the 18th thing is when he was in the upper room, John 13 and 14. You can take these as a set of steps now. Draw you a set of steps on a piece of paper. Don't be afraid of what you do. What you do, it belongs to you. Your ideas are your ideas. You want to see something? Draw a set of steps and go up them on these verses right here and read them. And when you get to the top, see where you are. And his crucifixion, verse 21, John 19, 16 through 18. And then in the 22nd thing is the resurrection, Matthew 28, 1 through 7. Now the whole Old Testament prophesies that Jesus was going to come, he was going to be crucified, he was going to resurrect. And then he had 10 appearances. There were 10 appearances of Jesus. We will cover that in one of these excerpts as we go. It'll be a while before we get there. The 24th thing is the ascension. That was the last time he would go up and into heaven. And well, there's 3 ascensions or so where he came back and went, came back and went, came back and went after he went to the Father. He went to the Father and put his blood on the altar, on the mercy seat to God, that you and I could be cleansed from our sins, and we are. And that was through his ascension. Now, he told some 38 parables. Now, a parable is a story that you tell, and that story has a actual meaning and a purposeful meaning. And he told some 38 of those as he walked across the country. Now, he had 19 prayers that he proclaimed needed to be done, where he had folded his hands. Prayers like this. You fold your hands in reverence to God. Nobody there but you and God. And you fold your hand. That's reverence. That's a reverent thing to do. And you do that. And he did these prayers, many of them, he did 16 sermons during his period of life here. And he did 45 predictions. He predicted 45 things that were going to happen while he was walking around. 37 of the Old Testament prophecies during the period of time, the 33 and a half years, or the 3 and a half years that he went to work and started doing his gospel thing, were fulfilled. He fulfilled 37 of those Old Testament prophecies. And because of that, we can find that. We need to earnestly study the Bible in methods, in a method manner. This is what I'm saying. Draw you a pair of steps like this. And start at the bottom, Jesus' birth, and go up to the cross and write those scriptures up to the cross. Look at them often. Right underneath the steps what those scriptures say, and do that, and you'll find them. Our time is come and gone. We're going to see you next time. We're going to try to keep these things at